Greetings everybody, this is Marcus Toole and I'm in my home orchard. Yes, it's should have done this earlier in the day. I've been kind of busy out here and busy also talking with people on Facebook about scionwood. This is time of year, it's January 21st, time of year where I'm collecting scionwood and pruning some of my trees. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this pruning project I just completed on my Baldwin pear tree. Baldwin, if you saw the video that I made this summer, and in fact I just published it not too long ago, produced a few pears this year. It's going to try to bloom a little bit more extensively this year, but unfortunately the flowers are already beginning to sprout. We had a kind of a warm period in early January. So this is a really early blooming variety anyway, and very low chill, and so it's going to try to bloom a little too soon. So the jury's very much out on whether or not we'll get any pears from this tree this year or not because of the early blooming. The tree is trying to get too big, and if I let it get too big, squirrels are going to start getting in it, and once that happens, it won't matter how many pears it produces. The squirrels won't let me have any, so I gave it a good pruning. Another thing I did is that I grafted some other trees into this tree. Last year I grafted, right here is a graft, and what's above it is a Savannah pear. This is another Savannah. No, actually that's not Savannah. That's a that is actually a pineapple pear grafted in there. And then right here we have a Charles Harris pear. And so I wanted to give these grafted pears that are grafted into the Baldwin a little bit more of an opportunity to take off. And I also just generally want to make the tree smaller. So I did a pruning on it. Now with pears, it's kind of a risky thing to give such a heavy winter pruning to them. It will stimulate really vigorous growth in the spring, which invites fire blight. I'll have to be careful not to give this tree a lot of nitrogen. In fact, I won't give it any nitrogen, and it will get another pruning this summer. A summer pruning is actually safer when it comes to fire blight. But I did want to get it under control, and I wanted to stimulate some good growth of some of these grafts that I put in from last year. Another tree that got a pretty heavy pruning for the same reasons as Golden Boy, and it's also trying to sprout out, but not as far along as the Baldwin. The trees that look the best in terms of having, I think I'm going to get a good crop from this year, provided they don't get yacked by a late frost, will be Tennessee and LeConte. Both look like they're just full of buds that are going to bloom this year. And I gave this tree a little bit of a pruning, but not as heavy a one as the other trees. Southern Bartlett, I've decided I'm not very impressed with the flavor of the pears of this tree. And so what I'm going to start doing this year is cutting out some of the major branches and grafting into their place Acres Home, which is a much better pear. And so eventually, over about a 2-year period, I'm going to do that to about half the tree this year. And then next year I'll graft in Acres Home into the other half of the tree. And eventually this will be a Acres Home pear tree instead of a Southern Bartlett pear tree. I think that's how I'm going to approach this. I just like the Acres Home variety better. I have a branch of Acres Home in another tree that I'd grafted in a few years ago, and it made a couple of pears, and I really like those pears, so I want a whole pear tree of Acres Home, and I'm really not crazy about Southern Bartlett. I think to me the pears are kind of tasteless, and so we're changing over slowly. Well, this video is long enough. I'll talk to you all later. God bless. Bye.